Hey guys, so today we will be looking at a continuation of yesterday's topic. Yesterday we looked at what is a chemical change, how do we identify a chemical change when we look at it. Today we will be talking more about chemical changes in terms of how we put it on paper. How do we represent a chemical change when we are writing or trying to describe it on paper. So for every chemical change there are mainly two things, okay. What we start with and what we end with. So like you saw yesterday, I started with two different chemicals, I added them and I ended up with something else entirely. So when I try to add something together or start with something, I call those as reactants, okay. So generally I will first write my reactants, okay. Whenever the reactants interact with each other in whatever way necessary, we end up with something completely new, like that milky white sediment residue thing that we saw yesterday. Yeah, so though whatever we get after a reaction, that is called as products. So there can be one or more reactants, there can also be one or more products, okay. Since we start here and end here, we put an arrow that says we go from reactants to getting products. Now these both will be vastly different from each other. It's all a point of identifying what is the reactant and what will be my product when I end up with it. Now it's very simply put like this. If I have to describe one specific change, how do I describe it? Okay, for example, yesterday we had this reaction where we had calcium oxide. We talked about exothermic reactions, right? So what did we use as reactants? I remember that we used calcium oxide, and to calcium oxide I added water, right? Then I remember I came and I got something as a product. Now what that something is what we need to know. So generally when you are asked a question based on this, it will be given to you something of this format. Write the reaction when calcium oxide reacts with water to form calcium hydroxide, for example. So this, I know that calcium hydroxide is what I am going to end up with. Okay. So the first step generally is to have a basic idea of what goes where. So firstly I'll identify what are my reactants, what are my products. Now I know calcium oxide and water are two different things which are added. So I will write it like this. Okay, to make it more clear, I will write calcium oxide plus water, okay. And this arrow is called gives rise to and I'll write as calcium hydroxide. This is the most basic form of writing a chemical equation, by just writing the names of everything that is involved. Okay, the next step that we take is we write, instead of the name, we are going to change that with the formula of that certain chemical that is there. Now two things we can do. One is we can remember all the formulae for all the compounds. If you are familiar with them, it is great. If not, last year we'll have learned about something called Criss Cross method to find out what is the formula for something. We use the valency or the ions, right? So I'm gonna today recap what is this Criss Cross method, so that going forward we'll be able to use Criss Cross method to understand what the formula for everything will be. Right? It's the best way. If you're somewhere in a pinch and you forgot formulae, or it's not given to you, then you can simply perform crisscross and do this. Okay, now calcium oxide. Okay, first I want to find out the formula for calcium oxide. Now I know that symbol for calcium is Ca. Okay, capital C, small a. Again, something you learned last year. I know for oxide it is O. Okay. Now I need to know what is the valency of each. Okay, valency is nothing but combining strength. Okay, I know that for calcium the valency is something called 2 plus, and I know for oxygen it is 2 minus. Okay, so now I know that calcium's valency is 2 and oxygen's valency is also 2. Symbol right now does not matter. Okay, what I am going to do in crisscross is I will send this to that side and I will bring this side. I am crisscrossing. Okay, so now this is 2 and this is also 2. If they are both the same number, I can simplify them, just like how we do in division, 1 and 1. Okay. Now I can simply write Ca followed by the number that is under C after crisscross. Right now it is 1. If it's 1, I don't need to write the number. Oxygen also has 1. Again it is 1, so I don't need to write. So for calcium oxide, my formula is CaO. Okay. Now same way I can find out what is the formula for calcium hydroxide. Okay. Again, for calcium, I know the formula is Ca and its valency is 2 plus. For hydroxide, you might need to check, but for hydroxide, the symbol is OH and its valency is 1 minus. Okay, again, the first step, I will eliminate the symbols. Okay, so firstly, I know that for calcium, I will write 2, and for hydroxide, I will write 1. Next thing, switch the numbers. 2 there for OH and 1 here for calcium. Okay. Now these are different numbers, right? I cannot simplify them. These were same, I did this, but over here I cannot. So now I'll write calcium and the number that follows. Since it's 1, you can omit it. Next is OH. OH. And now the number, which is 2. So we'll write this 2 over here at the bottom. It's called as subscript. Okay. So CaOH twice. Now keep in mind, OH is what? Oxygen and hydrogen together, right? When you have two capital letters getting the same number, you put them in a bracket, right? If it's one capital and one small like this, it means it's just one element. If it's two different capital letters, it's two different. So those we put in a bracket. Otherwise, bracket is not necessary. Okay, now this is how I write calcium oxide and calcium hydroxide's chemical formula. Finally, we know water's formula is H2O, right? So I'm not going to write that. Finally, I'm going to just write our final formula somewhere. Let me just create space. Okay, I'll just create some space here and I'll put, I know my equation starts here, calcium oxide first. So I'll write CaO, okay, plus water H2O, right? If you want, you can do crisscross for water and check whether you'll get H2O. H and O are the two atoms that are there in it. Okay, then arrow, then this one CaOH and twice. Okay, to quickly do it for water, in case you are interested, H and O. For H is 1 plus, O is 2 minus, 1 and 2, crisscross, 2, 1 and 2, right? So H gets 2 and O gets 1, so it's just O, right? Now again, H is just a single alphabet, so I don't need to put the brackets. Cool. So these are the three chemicals that are there in this. This is how we basically write an equation. Tomorrow we are going to look at how do I balance these equations to make them more correct. Okay, so this is Criss Cross method. This is what you're going to practice, and I'll see you again tomorrow.